Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Zanman Shane Sabuni, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And thank you for joining us here on Lords of Pain Radio's YouTube stream and also on Kingdom of Honor's YouTube stream. Um, you know, this weekend, my wife and I drove about 4 hours to pick up a puppy, drove 4 hours back. So now we have a brand new 3-month-old puppy. And when I put him outside, he turns around and stares at me, and then I kind of push him down the steps with my foot. And then he looks at me like I punched him in the soul. And that's how I felt watching Genesis 2005. We had watched Bound for Glory 2005 last week, and then there was the Impact special. And then Genesis, I was so excited for. And then there was that mess of an opening. And then there was PJ Blanco versus Raven. And then there was that absolute clusterfuck of a hockey match. But then Christian goddamn Cage saved the day. From the moment Christian Cage was introduced, that show all the way through was hot fire. So Genesis 2005 did not end up failing me. It ended up being another great show.
I agree, but I was thinking, especially through most of it, that it feels like a standard Impact.
Really?
It felt like a regular TV show. I mean, like you said, we had the crap at the beginning, then we had the PJ Polanco, and then we had, the hockey stick match, and then there was the ending felt more like a TV go home show than the end of a pay per view. And I think it was more about introducing Christian Cage, but it just felt like something that maybe should have happened live on TV and not on something that somebody paid $50 for.
Probably
That
30 at that time.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you kind of understand what I'm saying.
I do.
It with the beat down by the heels, and then Christian comes in to save the day, and the swerve, and all that stuff. It felt more like a regular standard TV show that you would use to hype up the pay per view, not the actual pay per view itself.
Yeah, it was a great way to pop the live crowd, but it probably would have been better for dramatic storytelling purposes that had not happened.
If he had debuted the night before, on Impact, and cut that promo that he did, which by the way is still one of the best promos I've ever heard.
Yep.
But cut that promo that he did, and then made his decision and left kind of an open. That's the kind of drama you lead going into a pay per view to find out, oh my God, what's going to happen? With all this stuff, and now Christian Cage, he's aligned against them, and that's the kind of stuff you want to see going into a pay per view, not ending a pay per view.
Yeah, agreed. Would you agree with me though that it feels like Christian's arrival just kind of um, energized the rest of the show the whole way through?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was a little bit shocked. I for some reason don't ever remember him, you know, debuting on a pay per view. But that's probably because, like I said, it felt more like an episode of Impact than an actual pay per view. I mean, the
And it's
only
and, it,
thing,
and it's probably true that he gave a very similar promo the next Impact, which I haven't got to yet. So.
right? Yeah, I mean, his promo was amazing. It was one of the best I've ever heard. And it's funny. I remember texting you at the time saying that you know 15 years later, we're still having the same discussion and how everybody wants real pro wrestling, and that promo he cut reminded me a lot of the one that Matt Jackson cut at the end of not Double or Nothing, All In,
Hmm.
about how he wants real pro wrestling and wants to give the fans what they want, and he doesn't want to be a part of comedy or all these like whatever other things. It was almost like Nick Jackson was paraphrasing the promo that Christian cut 15 years earlier, or 14 years at that time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was almost. But I think it was actually a lot of it was. Actually, it was 13 at the time. But anyway,
Yeah, you're
um,
right.
but actually, I think a lot of it was. I think the difference was that Christian was talking about a lot more seemed like directed more towards the talent, whereas Jackson's promo was directed more towards the fans.
Well, but he did. I mean, he did kind of bring it out about how there was the talent, a bunch of old guys, and how the product is stale and seems directionless and all that stuff, which is what he was, part of in '98 and '99 once the NWO thing kind of ran its course.
Hmm.
Um, and he was a part of that in WWE. It was the young, hungry guys that wanted to make names for themselves, and they were going up against the old, tired product, which was WCW. And then, at that time in 2005, that was after the whole SmackDown 6 thing. That was, once they started really kind of jamming the two shows together and not really having directions with storylines and people where it was all about Cena and it kind of became more of a cluster than anything. And he was referring to that. It was now a bunch of older guys that were they had really no direction. The company had gotten stale, and he wanted to be with a younger crowd. And I just think it's funny that 20 years later we're still hearing those same promos, and guess who's still on top? It's still the WWE on top. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and it's something that it shocked me when I heard the promo. It was like, God, this sounds so familiar. Oh yeah, we just went through this 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, because it's still true. I mean, it's still true that the biggest wrestling company in the world is old and stale, has no new ideas.
Well, and it's not just that. It's the biggest company in the world is a comedy act now. It's not even a wrestling show anymore.
Well,
If if Money in the Bank is anything to judge it on, it's just a comedy act now. It's not even fucking wrestling anymore.
yeah, very true.
Which is sad because they still have some of the top talent in the world.
And some of our listeners might have seen that another LOP radio, or no, I'm sorry, another LOP columnist, former LOP radio personality, Mazza, was doing a series, and he actually kind of interviewed me. We went back and forth about my career at LOP, and one of the last questions he asked me was, um, what was it? Name a time in pro wrestling you would go back to, or you would choose to relive um, in any one company. And I started off by saying, well, that's kind of the correct answer right now about just living wrestling is right now because of
Right.
all the choices that are option open to you. But if I did pick one company, I went through a list of honorable mentions first, but one of my honorable mentions was 1980s WWF, which I still think is better than anything else I've ever seen in the WWF or WWE.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, once about 91 is when it started to get stale and boring and old, and then it just never really recovered until about 97.
yeah, in the Attitude Era, but I kind of lump all that together with WCW at the same time, because it's hard for me to separate what WWF was doing, what WCW was doing, because they were so dependent upon what each other were doing, and racing against each other that entire time, you know.
And there for a time too, they got so similar because once Bischoff and WCW started blurring the lines, then WWE jumped right on top of that and started doing it too. They just did it better. So you got, I mean, all credit where credit's due. They just did it better than WCW did at the time, and that's why they won the war. But
Well, that's I just need to correct you slightly. They did it better than Turner did at the time because WCW was already because WCW was shackled and handcuffed by Turner's um, um, standards and practices.
you can't even really say Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Ted Turner was a huge fan of the product and just wanted pro wrestling. He didn't care. It was the Turner, especially once they sold merged with AOL, that they became really kind of a headache.
Yeah, exactly. My answer to that question, by the way, was 2007 to 2009 Ring of Honor. So, which
See,
which
and
which
I
which which, which not surprise you at all because of my fandom for Nigel McGuinness's title reign. So,
right, but to me, it's a toss. I didn't watch much of that, but '05 TNA, '05 to '07 TNA,
yeah,
I still think is some of the best I've ever seen. I loved the whole Attitude Era, not just WWE, but starting in '96 with WCW, and then everything that led into that, and then what came out of it up until probably about 2001, and then I would jump forward to Wrestle Kingdom 10, and ever since then.
Yeah, I wish I was a right. The NJPW was the current day NJPW is definitely mine, and I would actually go back to Wrestle Kingdom 7 for that. But I wish I was a sophisticated enough and historical enough fan to say, hey, it was 1980, it was the 1990 AJPW, but I did not have access
Right.
to All Japan at that time, and I don't have their streaming service to go back and watch it now. So
Now, and we watch so much wrestling, it'd be hard to go back and watch it now. Even now, during all this going on and no real live events and all that stuff, I'm still finding, we haven't seen NJPW in 4 months. Um, and even now, without having NJPW and Ring of Honor on the docket, I'm still struggling to find time to watch all the wrestling we want to watch.
right, exactly, and I mean I think it'd be funny to maybe take like one. I should say, we probably could have done it, but just like 1 month at some point and just get the All Japan streaming service and go back and watch some Kawada and Toshiaki and all those kind of guys and just to give us sort of a little bit of taste of what it was like back then. But
Well, and because of our watching NJPW for the last 6 years, we kind of understand Japanese a little bit better. So at least enough to make it out what's going on.
exactly. Um, all right, so let's get back into the show. So we already talked about how the show started with Raven facing a mystery partner who ended up being PJ Polanco, which for those of you who don't know is just incredible. Or if you've never seen Just Incredible, then Aldo Montoya.
Jeez.
I just heard Jeff's heart.
Oh, wow. I just pulled up the Wikipedia rundown.
Yeah,
Shark Boy defeated Nigel McGuinness in the opening dark match of this.
I know. Doesn't that suck? We didn't get a chance to watch that.
That would have been interesting, especially because I mean this is 2 years before his Ring of Honor run that you love so much.
And I think it's a couple of years before we got the best version of Shark Boy too.
Oh, once he started his Stone Cold bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I know it's not I know we're not there yet because Eric Young is still part of Team Canada right now.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. Um, I get well, I guess there's no better time than the present. I mean, Petey Williams is what is just severely underrated even back then, and it kind of hurts me a little bit that he got stuck with Big Papa Pump and became Little Petey Pump because he was just so good when he was the captain of Team Canada.
Yeah. And this time he's actually the longest reigning X Division champion of all time. I don't know if that's still the case, but at least at this
I
point
thought
here he is.
Christopher Daniels was.
Uh, no, I think didn't they say Christopher Daniels had it and then Petey Williams overtook him for it, or is it the other way around?
It was the other way around.
Oh, okay, my bad. All right, so
Yeah, because
Petey Williams has no claim to fame now at this point then.
no, but except for the fact that he's just really, really good, and that that annoyed me that people popped more for a run of the mill, no DQ match where we didn't see anything extraordinary happen between Abyss and Sabu. And then we watched just this classic by AJ Styles and Petey Williams, and people sat on their hands. It annoyed me a little bit because it was such great storytelling. The move sets were, I mean, it wasn't what you would come to expect from AJ later on. It was legitimate storytelling, and they told such a great story. They had great back and forth. That spot with the I've seen a lot of crazy, insane stuff, especially when you start looking at junior heavyweights and things like that. But I still think that the most insane spot I've ever seen was that one that Petey Williams when he did the snapdragon on the ring on the guardrail.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that could have been the. I mean, that's like a split, an inch further, and AJ's out with a broken neck. Probably ended his career.
Well, you remember last year we talked about when we talked about Naito versus Ibushi. There
Right.
was they were doing that same spot on the ring apron. We both said like there's nothing good that could possibly come of that.
No.
Either he hits it perfectly on the ring apron like he did, or he misses it by an inch and Ibushi goes flying into the guardrail or into the concrete and breaks his neck. So it was amazing to me to to watch this. I don't think I ever saw Genesis 2005 before. So to see this actually happen in a match, I was just sitting there going, yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. It's like I was like, holy shit, they really did it.
Yeah, I mean, this happened in a match, and again, 15 years before it really became a mainstream thing, and we're bitching about wrestler safety.
Right.
It just when I saw that spot, it just blew me away. I was like, "Holy, how is no that no? Why would anyone sign off on that?"
Yeah, and you know you're so right about P.D. Williams being a lot better than than he's given credit for. I mean, and Don West kind of had to scream that during this match, like P.D. Williams is more than just a Canadian destroyer.
Right.
He's an outstanding wrestler in his own right. But I do think that I do think that's what Williams is remembered for the most part, and rightfully so. I mean, inventing the flip pile driver, um, but I mean, it's too bad that it's kind of overtaken his entire legacy. That that's all people remember him for, really.
Well, and I think, I mean, when you look at it, probably 3 years from now, Team Canada breaks up and he takes kind of a hiatus away from TNA, and then he comes back as Scott Steiner's understudy, and that's basically the rest of his career is as Scott Steiner's understudy. He doesn't really get to shine on his own after Team Canada breaks up.
Right.
Which, I mean, some of that could be on the fact that, he left at just the wrong time. And when he came back, Bischoff and Hogan didn't know what to do. So they put him with Steiner. I don't know, but it's just a shame that this guy, because this guy could have a similar legacy to um, what AJ has.
Right.
And he's really kind of overshadowed and everything because he never got to those AJ heights. Well, he was never really kind of given the chance. And it makes me wonder because around that same time was when they wanted to take AJ and make him Ric Flair light. And they wanted him to dye his hair and start wearing the robes. I mean, he started wearing the robes, but he refused to dye his hair blonde and do the whole strut and all that stuff. But it makes me wonder, had AJ not, stuck to his guns and said, absolutely not, I'm not doing that, would AJ be where AJ is now?
He did frost his hair, didn't he?
No, he
I
didn't.
thought he
He
did.
wouldn't do anything. He had an interview where they that was one thing that they wanted to do, and he refused to. And because he had some clause in his contract, he was able to say no.
Gotcha.
But they wanted to make him Ric Flair light there for a while. And I just wonder, where would AJ be now had he done that in 2011?
Excellent question, but he didn't, and we're thankful for it.
Thank God.
And I was amazed. Like I actually texted you that this last week, and you never responded to it. But I'm not sure if you got busy or what. But I was amazed. Like I was looking through the NA and TNA World Title history just to look at AJ Styles' accomplishments, and he has actually won his last NWA World Heavyweight Championship before we started watching it Bound for Glory last week, which was October of 2005. He will not hold the TNA World Title for the first time until October of 2009.
Yeah, 4 years without it, which, I mean, when you see the direction that he goes now, he becomes more of a tag team wrestler. They really wrap the X division around him for the next couple of years, and he becomes, once he starts with Christian, he becomes more of a tag team guy, and then he ends up in that program with Christopher Daniels for a while before Daniels leaves and goes back to Ring of Honor, where he's Daniels' tag team partner, and they go on and win some titles together. And there's a lot they have him in a lot of different directions. But when I think about it, over the next 4 to 5 years, you've got Christian and Jarrett who are battling pretty much at the top the whole time for the next 2 years. And then the second Christian leaves, Kurt Angle basically comes in. It's almost like a passing of the torch because I don't think Angle's there long before he starts up the Main Event Mafia. And you've also got Jeff Hardy. You've also got Abyss. You've got all kinds of other people there to step up to Jarrett. So I guess I don't know, but also too, it's not long before the Jarretts sell it off to Dixie Carter. And once she does that, it becomes all about WWF rejects.
Yeah, AJ Styles is this kind of guy that I think Hogan would never want to push.
No,
So
no.
and then after he loses that title to Rob Van Dam, then he doesn't get it back again until 2013. So he's actually only a two-time TNA World Champion.
Which is funny because he's probably the best. Well, no, because his title reigns weren't really that great.
No, I mean, I guess I can take some solace in the fact that they didn't really push the X division as being lesser than the title division at this time. So I
No.
mean, him being the top star of the X division was equivalent really to Jarrett being the top star in the heavyweight division. It's just that they usually had the heavyweight stuff go on last.
Well, and there was a time from '07 to '09 too, where the X division was the hottest division on the planet.
Right.
That was the best wrestling on the planet was watching the X division. So, it's
Well, it
not
was it was
surprised.
it was it was for the most part on this card too.
Yeah, it really was. That four way elimination match was amazing, or that four tag team 4-man elimination match was amazing, and the championship match was as well.
Right.
It was weird seeing the greatest man that ever lived bow out so quickly like that, though.
It was. I agree.
And
But but
and
but but,
hearing,
but you know what? And maybe it's just me being such a big ROH fan, but it's always special for me to see Austin Aries and Samoa Joe in the ring together.
yeah, it was kind of it took me a second to understand what Tanay said too when he called it the forearm because I was waiting to hear the 5 arm.
Yeah.
So when he called it the forearm, I was like, wait, no, you got that wrong.
It just isn't the 5 arm yet, is all.
Yeah, no,
Um, that that uh that 6-man tag team hockey street fight. Was it just me or was that just a complete fucking mess?
that hockey stick thing,
Yeah.
that was more just to get um, Kip James over than anything.
I know. I feel that's how I feel too because like the rules for the fight were ridiculous. For the with the sticks was ridiculous. And then every time one of the sticks got caught in the ring, somebody would drop it and it would end up in Three Life Crew's corner. It was just
And then it was like, I mean, one of the stipulations, if I was hearing it right, was you have to climb it to use it, and only the person that's legal can use it.
only person with legal can climb it and use it. Yep.
Right. So, by my understandings, nobody else should have been able to touch it except for the guy who climbed up and got it. So, every time that it got, like when Conan came running in with a shoe on the tip of it, which, by the way, that was stupid. It's like anybody with any common sense is going to realize that a stick poking you is going to hurt more than a 13-inch shoe. But regardless, that by their stipulation alone, that never should have happened. He never should have been able to use that. It should have only been Eric Young that was allowed to use it
Yeah. Exactly.
until somebody else went up. Otherwise, why the hell have 6 sticks up there?
Yeah. I really did not understand that match, and it was the rules were ridiculous, and the other thing that bugged me about that, and see if you can follow me here on this, but BJ James started climbing up to the top to get one of the hockey sticks, and then he was like, "Oh, it's too high for me. I'm scared of heights." And he
Right.
tagged in Ron Killings to go ahead and get it. Then next time BJ James is legal in the match, then he actually does go ahead to the top and get
Yep. He climbs up to the top to get it. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, and then there too with the like you said, the whole stipulations. Eric Young climbed up and got his stick before he was when he wasn't legal. Kip James grabbed it and broke it. So technically, Eric Young never should have been able to go up and get another stick. He should have just been done with it. It was a poorly done stipulation that just really didn't make much sense, and they didn't really do it correct or right. And I don't know. I was just annoyed by the whole match.
yeah. When they had initially announced when they originally talked about it on that Impact special, I thought they were going to have it as it's basically like an all-out brawl. But I'm kind of glad they didn't because that would have then interfered with the thrill of the main event. So
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that main event was just insanity.
wasn't it though? I
My,
actually I actually put in my description of tonight's show that if it was awesome, but it's also kind of a primer for what we're going to see the main event of AEW's pay per view.
Well, it was funny because I think I put in my description, and this it makes it funny because we weren't even talking about it, but that was just, I put in my description that and an insane main event.
Yeah.
My only issue with the main event was, and it's one of those that I've always really kind of been bothered by, is that if you're going to have a no DQ match, announce it as a no DQ match. If you're going to have a, all out brawl like that where anything goes, announce it as that. Don't just go to the ring, announcing, hey, this is a 6-man tag match, and then all hell breaks loose and you just let it go.
Well, I think it's fine when they set it up the way they did, and then with them seeing the referees giving them a lot of discretion. You know,
A lot of discretion?
yeah.
Was there any discretion? There was no discretion. I mean, there was from the start. They rang the bell. I mean, that's one of the things as being a wrestling fan. That's one thing is that you ring the bells when both competitors are in the ring ready to go. You had 3 guys that were spread out across the stadium, and they just rang the bell. They're like, ah, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, but you know what? It did play to the strength of all the competitors in it too.
Oh, it did.
I think Jarrett is better in a street fight situation at this point in his career. I mean, you and I talked about last week of how great he was as in USW and world class, but really, ever since at least like you know '98, he's been better. He was better in a hardcore environment than he was in an actual wrestling match. And then Team 3D, of course, was always better in that environment as well. So I think at least half of the people in here are
Well,
better
and
in the
Rhino
environment they were in.
and Rhino too. At that point in his career was still a better extreme wrestler than but then I mean when you looked at the one thing that I loved the most about this match is not only did both Team 3D and AMW get in their finishers, but all 6 individual wrestlers got in their finishers.
That's right, they did, didn't they?
Yep, all 6 of them did, including we had and I can't think of the name of them, but Devon hit his. Both Storm. Well, I guess
Devon's a saving grace.
yeah, but I guess Chris Harris didn't hit his, but he came. He at least had it set up and almost hit it.
Yeah, that's true. But they did hit the death sentence. So
Yeah. So I mean, but every single wrestler got a chance to display not only their tag team finishers but their actual finishers, which was something you don't normally see in a match like this.
yeah, and I love that spot with that spot at the entrance where where Rhino hit the Rhino driver, and then he's setting up the table to plow Jarrett through it with the gore, and then Storm interferes and hits him with the last call. I know it wasn't called the last call at the time, but he hits him with the super kick.
He
That was really well set up and really well executed.
When he kicked his face off.
Yep.
You hear people talking about kicking their face off, but very rarely does a guy blindside someone with a super kick and knock him all the way off the ramp.
Yep. That was amazing. And let's give Rhino credit for tumbling down those stairs too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am still disappointed because all I wanted to see was a gore through that table from the backside.
Yeah.
Especially after they showed us that shot of the table set up like that. That's all I wanted to see was them get a shot of Jarrett going through the table from behind.
Yeah. I mean, even if they had like reset it up and had Storm be the one to go through it, would have been great. But
Anybody go through it. All I wanted to see was somebody go through it from inside the tunnel.
I agree. That would have been awesome. Maybe we do get that payoff somewhere down the line. I don't remember.
Hopefully, hopefully we do. But yeah, I mean, all in all, that it wasn't as great as the last pay per view. They did. I mean, they did have a running story throughout the whole thing with the Christian Cage and the debut of somebody, and then to have Christian debut in like the middle of the card. So then there was questions on everything going through the rest of the card. It worked. It kind of kept the same formula, just not as well as it was done on Bound for Glory.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Bound for Glory. I mean, we can't expect every show to be Bound for Glory because then every show would be the greatest of all time,
Right.
and then nothing would be the greatest of all time. So
Exactly. Exactly. Which is the danger you get into when you start giving people 6 and 6.5 star matches. at that point. Let's just when that's, but that is one
Yeah,
of
but
the
but but even you have started saying that's a 5+ star match. So,
yeah, and see, I guess I'm okay more so with that than saying that's the greatest match of all time because forever, Steamboat and Flair or Steamboat and Savage was the greatest match of all time, and then it was, Steamboat and Flair, and then it was, eventually you can't keep having the greatest match of all time. It just say that match was phenomenal. Now, saying that's the greatest tag team match I've ever seen, that's one thing. But calling it the greatest of all time just is like a slippery slope.
yeah, I guess, but I mean, I get that's it's always the same thing. I mean, it's always, and yeah, I mean, you're always gonna have recency bias too. But I mean,
Right.
but I do really do feel like the Young Bucks versus Hangman and Omega was the greatest tag team match I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'll agree. It was the best I've ever seen too. And it is tough because it wasn't that long ago we were saying Golden Lovers versus Ishii and Okada was the greatest tag team match we'd ever seen. And then it was the Golden Lovers versus the Bucks that was the greatest tag team we'd ever seen. But I guess
And no,
I
I
would
agree. I mean, those are still in my opinion the three top regular tag team matches I've ever seen.
but when you say it's the greatest match you've ever seen, then yeah, that's fine because yeah, it's okay. It's the greatest match in your opinion, and like we've always said, wrestling is opinion.
Yeah,
I personally am not a huge fan of Sasha Banks, but I know some people that are. And that's their choice.
right. I mean,
Personally, I'm a Shayna Baszler fan.
oh, not me. I hate that chick.
Yeah. Although I am
Uh,
starting to really enjoy Dr. Britt Baker, I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely starting to enjoy her.
yeah, I like her character a lot, and she's pretty good in the ring. But I also take Shane. I still would take Shane over any other woman I've ever seen wrestle. So
Oh, absolutely. But Britt Baker, it's amazing how less than a year ago we were saying that she was unproven and not a very good wrestler. And it's just watching how far she's come in a year is absolutely astonishing.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I guess we should also talk about the fact that this is the not that we don't have anything else to cover, but I mean this. We should also talk about the fact that this is the last time we'll see Jeff Hardy on pay-per-view now in TNA for 4 years.
Does he go back to WWE?
He does. Yeah. I think he has some more substance abuse problems, and he goes back to WWE until he has that run, and then it's in 2000 at SummerSlam 2009, or actually the Tuesday after SummerSlam 2009.
I guess I didn't realize that because wasn't it? Um, it was before '05 when he won the title there, wasn't it?
No, no, he did not win the title in WWE until 2009.
Okay.
2000, maybe 2008. He might have won the WWE title in 2008 and the world title in 2009, but it's something right around that time.
So does Matt go to TNA before Jeff does now?
I think so.
Because I remember, I mean, Matt was still a big deal in WWE at this point. This was the time when he had, well, I mean, he had his tag team going with MVP, and he had, and shortly after this is when the whole incident with Edge begins.
No, shortly before this is.
I thought it was '06 when all that started with him getting fired and then becoming, um, basically getting his job back because of his presence on the internet.
I'm almost 100% sure it's SummerSlam 2005 that he faced Matt Hardy, but I'll look it up right now.
That Edge faced Matt Hardy?
Yeah, because I thought he faced John Cena at SummerSlam 2006.
I don't know, I guess.
I'm looking it up just to see, because I could be wrong.
I don't, like I said, I've told you this before. I was all in on TNA during this time. So I mean, there was a period of time when I wasn't even watching WWF. Once Cena moved over to Raw and dropped his whole rapper gimmick,
Hmm.
is when I was done with WWE, and I didn't look back at WWE until Orton and Legacy was around. Like I missed all of Evolution.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, yeah. SummerSlam 2005 is when he faced Edge and got knocked out by him.
Okay.
I'm looking to see when he came into TNA. Okay, so the Hardy Boys reunited in 2006 in ECW, WWE ECW, obviously.
Right.
And so actually,
Because Cena went to Raw in '05 after WrestleMania in 2005.
right.
And then shortly after that, he had turned into Super Cena, which is what we know now. I mean, he still had his little bit of his edge, but for the most part, he had turned into Super Cena and was just a vanilla babyface to the point where even the spinning title wasn't spinning anymore. And then that was about the same time that TNA debuted on Spike. And once TNA debuted on Spike, I was out. I was out of WWE, and all I ever watched was TNA until kind of the rise of Orton with Legacy.
So actually, Matt doesn't go to TNA until 2011. So I was wrong about that.
Okay,
But I remember him being there before that. So he must have been there a couple of times, maybe in 2005 before he signed back with WWE.
possibly.
So I remember him being kind of in Ring of Honor and TNA at the same time.
Well, yeah, because he was in Ring of Honor in 2012 when he was leading the Kingdom.
Right. Okay, so that's right. Maybe that's what I was talking about then. Yeah, so not till 2011 is he in TNA, which means unless they get their shit together and add those impacts on there, we're not going to see him on Impact there.
Oh, they're not. Those aren't on there, huh?
No, it goes till 2008, and then there's nothing on there. Then there's nothing until 2015.
What is with these companies that like Ring of Honor is having that issue too, where I mean they're now because they have time and they have no other shows and they need something to put on content on. They're finally going back and scrubbing some of those older ones, but I don't understand. It's where does a company like TNA and Impact lose those rights to where they can't even broadcast their own stuff?
Um, I don't. I think TNA signed it over to Viacom at some point during the maybe that was part of getting Spike to resign them to a new contract was that they had to give up those rights. I have no idea. But I mean, there's stuff in Destination America and all those other stuff. They still have the rights to it. Probably their second deal on with Spike with or slash Viacom that they don't have that. Which is really sad because it's not like Viacom's gonna do anything with it. I mean, they're not gonna fucking broadcast TNA's past shows on Paramount Network.
No. And wasn't that 2011, 12, and 13? Wasn't that when Fortune was big?
That sounds right.
So, I mean, you're literally missing out on one of the biggest factions in the history of the company.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the way that you and I have followed WWE for years is just watching pay per view to pay per view. So we could always do the same thing for TNA. It's just that we would just
Oh,
miss
they.
we would just miss the impacts.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that's not a big deal. Then I don't have time to go back and watch all those impacts. I mean, I.
Well, no, but if you think about it, that's actually like during the rise of Matt Hardy's character, where he first won the world title, where EC3 turned on him. So I mean, you'd miss a lot of the rise of EC3 if they don't have that stuff on before by the time we get there.
Oh, wow. I guess I didn't realize that that's when EC3 was a big deal. I thought he didn't really become anything till about 14 or 15.
Right, that's it. But I said there's a little bit in 15, there's a little bit in 16, and then it's like basically 17 on that's on there after 2008.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that sucks. So basically, when Dixie was having financial problems, she sold the rights.
Yes,
Bitch.
yes, that's probably what happened. But yeah, I mean, hopefully there's something they can get the rights back from Viacom because, like I said, what's Viacom going to do with it?
Well, what's Viacom going to do with the X-Men at this point? Or not Viacom. I'm thinking Sony and Spider-Man because they're not making money off Spider-Man. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's making money.
Well, no, they're still creating a Spider Verse with like Black Sable, and they're creating a Morbius movie. They're doing another Venom movie. They're doing a Carnage movie. So I think they'll be okay because it's not just Spider Man; it's the Spider Man universe.
Yeah, but outside of Spider-Man, it's not as. But then again, too, I mean, Iron Man was a great character, but wasn't the household character he is now. Had it not been for the way that Marvel did him.
I'm looking forward to Morbius. That's going to be awesome.
You're looking forward to what?
Morbius.
Morbius?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was another part of
I,
this though
I
that
I
was
think I think Sony will take it. I'm sorry. I just think Sony will take things in a darker manner than Disney ever would on the Marvel side. So I think having something more like Carnage and Morbius and things like that is going to be pretty awesome.
yeah, probably. One thing too that was kind of not really explainable was at this point in time, isn't Samoa Joe and a face and CD a heel?
I think they're both heels at this time, actually.
I thought Samoa Joe was kind of a face because this was during his where everyone was chanting and cheering about his dance and all that stuff, and getting behind the "Joe's gonna kill you" chants and all that stuff.
Yeah, this is pro wrestling, Jeff, and in that time, and for even back in 2005, people cheered who they wanted to cheer, regardless of their alignment.
Not as much as they do now. I mean, I seem to remember people. Well, yeah, I guess you're right because this was around the time when people were cheering Triple H and Legacy, and Cena was technically a bad guy, but people were cheering him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Joe was a babyface here at all.
It just was kind of odd watching him turn heel against a heel, and it almost kind of makes it's almost kind of making it to where Christopher Daniels is kind of going to be a babyface after this with the way he got beat down.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I think that's the case. But I do think that Joe was at least a tweener if he wasn't a full out heel at this point.
Oh, he became a full out heel because this is when he started coming to the ring with his
Bloody towel.
bloodstained towel and did that until he had his payoff match with CD.
Yeah, it's hard to remember him and never. It's hard to remember that he didn't always do that. But obviously there had to be an origin to the towel. So
Oh yeah,
this
yep.
was it that we saw.
This was the origin, and he debuted that bloody towel when he came out to stare down AJ.
And you know what? I know there's been 8-man elimination matches with more drama and more stakes than this one did. But goddamn, this was a great one. This might be my favorite one I've ever seen.
Well, this was well done because clearly Joe and DCD were the
Hmm.
top two draws to this, especially at this time. I mean, we all know what Saban and Aries and Shelley and Strong all become,
Hmm.
but clearly this was a stage for Daniels and Samoa Joe.
Right.
Chris Sabin was kind of on the rise. He was like the top of the face side. Bentley had his whole following, but this was a weird mixture because I never looked at Matt Bentley as being somebody that was going to team with a Chris Sabin. He fit more in with Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe at this time. Where Roderick Strong kind of fit more in with the other side. Sanjay Dutt, I've just never understood.
Good. Thank you for saying that. I was going to say I was just about to ask you what your opinion on Sanjay Dutt was because I never got the appeal of him.
Yeah,
And that sprinkler is fucking stupid.
yeah. I mean, he was always pushed to some really big deal, and I just never got it. I never got the love for Sanjay Dutt the way that TNA pushed him. He was never anything special. He was never anything flashy. He was never anything that was, um, something you would look for. He would have made a perfect heel because he was a foreigner. Because they didn't do anything with him as a babyface to make him likable. And I hate that stereotype. I've always hated that stereotype. You're the foreigner, so you're the heel. But if you're not going to be the heel as a foreigner, you have to at least be something special as a face, and he wasn't.
So sure he was, Jeff. He was the original player from the Himalaya.
And he did that stupid sprinkler dance all the time.
Whatever the hell the original player from the Himalaya is supposed to mean.
I
Um, Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way with Sanjay Dutt in 2005 and probably like through 2009. I'm guessing. I'm thinking, trying to think how long he was there. But did about DJ Z? You know, Zima Ion. To me,
Yeah,
I always felt like he got over pushed too.
I never really bought into the whole DJZ thing either.
Yeah, but even as Zima Ion, I thought he was, I
Oh
thought he
wow.
was overrated. You know,
He's a producer now with WWE.
who is?
Sanjay Dutt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his real name is Ratish Bahala.
Hmm.
He's
Okay,
currently signed to WWE as a producer.
interesting.
He started working for TNA in 2003 in the X Division, winning the Impact X Division Championship in 2017. He also competed for Global Force Wrestling when Jarrett was trying to start that up. Wow, I didn't. He literally just left Impact. 2017 to 2019, he was with Impact.
Wow. Why?
I don't know. And how did we not see him before now? Oh, I know, because he's Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a producer at WWE now, so there's that. And Sabu, it's weird to hear for us to say this, because when we're doing our legacy thing, the Extreme series that we're doing on ECW, we've been praising Sabu for his, just his character, and the fact that he's really living that homicidal, suicidal character, and he, do anything to win. Now at this point in his career in TNA, he's more of just a joke.
Yeah.
I
And
he
and and and, and how bizarre was it to hear him yell at the cameraman, "Get the fuck out of the way." I mean,
in perfect in
I know that the guy's from
English.
Detroit, Michigan, but I mean that's not what his character
No,
was supposed
he's
to
from
be.
New York.
No, he's from
He's from
Michigan.
New York, Staten Island, New York. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, okay. I thought he's from Michigan.
Yeah,
Okay.
born December 12th in Staten Island, New York. Hey, he was born on my birthday.
Happy birthday to you, Jeff.
We're birthday buddies.
Cool.
But he was born as he used to go by the name Terry Snuka.
The point is, he was supposed to be playing an Indian guy that didn't know how to speak English, and then he yells, "Get the fuck out of the way" to the camera.
Yeah, yeah, in perfect English, and it was like, oh wow, way to break the fifth wall there, guys. That's not even the fourth wall. We're fifth wall breaking here.
Yeah, crazy.
But he just I I don't know. By this point in his career, it's not a shock to see thumbtacks and to see the barbed wire bats and stuff like that. And the storyline with Abyss being afraid of barbed wire. Seriously?
Aren't you?
No, not to the point where I'm going to cower and hide behind my manager because somebody says the word barbed wire. It does. I mean,
I don't know. Have you seen that movie? It's pretty bad.
well, no, it was great. That first 10 minutes. Oh, my Pamela Anderson. Hoofda.
That's how long you lasted? Was 10 minutes? Huh?
Yeah, it's after that I was sleeping. I was worn out after 10 minutes. I had to take a nap through the rest of the movie.
Understandable.
Uh, the it's
Then
just one of those.
you woke up and took a shower and washed your sheets.
Yep, and then rewound it and watched the first 10 minutes again. um, the it's one of those things that just it's such a stretch from his character that it was so bad that I didn't I could not get into that whole thing. And it was leading into it too, watching those three impacts. It was just like, really, this is the storyline we're going to go. He's deathly afraid of the word barbed wire.
Apparently.
And then he didn't play it up. Like, you would think that if you're that afraid of barbed wire, you would know where it is all the time, and you wouldn't even want to slam your opponent on it because it might touch you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves because obviously someone who's no longer afraid of barbed wire because his ultimate weapon is Janice, which is wrapped in barbed wire.
No,
You
it
know.
was the thumbtack. It was the nails through the 2x4. Janice was the nails.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That was you're thinking of Foley's barbed wire bat.
I was thinking of both actually. I did. I guess I didn't. But yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, Janice's was the. Yeah, it is. It is the nails, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
Janice was the like literal. I can't believe you're actually bringing that to ringside and threatening to hit somebody with it because that could straight up kill them.
Yeah, I always like think about things um, today is showing this is anything goes match. It's like, well, why aren't they bringing a fucking machine gun out there with them? But it's clear it's because they want to get more personal than that with each other.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's pro wrestling. They need to get down and dirty and personal, and you know, we're. But it's
Flamethrower, motherfucker!
I actually, I mean, I thought this was another very well done pay per view. We've talked about this before. When you watch the greatest thing ever, it's hard to come back and watch the next one and not be like, oh, that was kind of a disappointment.
Hmm.
But the reality is this was so well done too, and it followed a lot of the exact same formula that Bound for Glory did, and you can tell that this time in TNA they're really kind of developing that formula to where it really kind of hits its stride in '06 and '07. I just wish this had felt a little bit less like an Impact with the jobber matches in the beginning and the craziness with that stick match, and then you like to save those kind of beatdowns for an Impact. You want the ending of a pay-per-view is always supposed to be the payoff to the heel storyline, to the heel versus face storyline. So Team 3D and Rhino getting the win and standing tall is the payoff.
Right.
Not having the bad guys do the beatdown and then the good guys come in and save them and then the swerve, that's, like I said, that's a go home show moment. That's not a payoff to a pay-per-view moment. The payoff to the pay-per-view is that the heels got their comeuppance and the faces were standing tall.
Right.
And I think that's a
And and
lot
and
of
and that's what Bound for Glory did so well is that Team 3D had not been seen for a month, and Rhino had to go through all that all those obstacles in order to overcome to win the world championship, and so he won the world title, but then he was getting beaten down, and Team 3D returns after being having the funeral and all that shit. So that's what Bound for Glory did so well. Whereas I think they tried to recreate it a little bit too much and did overbook the ending of this one.
Well, and see, that's like I said, the ending of Bound for Glory was really overbooked, and we talked about it last week. Had it been any other match, any other time, and a different circumstances, I would have been screaming all to high heaven that was overbooked and garbage because of it. But the way it was done throughout the night made it work so well. This one, like you said, maybe they were trying too hard to recreate. Normally I don't like the run in at the end of a pay per view, but I guess it's not so much the run in that I have an issue with. It's like the debut, and this was a Christian debut. This shouldn't have been Christian, doing his little heel swerve at the end or his little face swerve at the end of it.
No, not at all. That actually made it worse to me. Is what was the point of him showing the Team Canada thing and then and because nothing would have changed with the situation if he had not done that. You know.
Right.
So
Yeah, it just felt more like a
an impact.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. All right. So anything else for this week?
No, actually, you know what? I'm done.
Okay. So where else can they listen to us at, Jeff?
They can listen to us all over the place. Hopefully, one of them places they're listening to us is not only, is on our YouTube. We got. I guess we're broadcasting live right now on two different YouTubes on our personal one, kingdomofhonor.com, or YouTube /Kingdom of Honor, and then also on YouTube /Lords of Pain. If you're listening to us on either one of them, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, especially on the Kingdom of Honor one, because we do this not only twice a week with the wrestling, but we do hit, we try to at least once a month hit a YouTube exclusive show You can also check us out on our Patreon channel. It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Everything we do is up there in the archives. And then we do exclusive only Patreon shows, which unfortunately we're not going to get to this week. We're going to be shooting more towards next week with it. But, with the long weekend coming up, we got a little more time to watch some stuff and maybe get caught up on some stuff. But, be sure to go to patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Hit, subscribe to us, ring some, or do some notification. Oh my God, I can't even talk. Subscribe to one of our tiers. Help us out, donate a little bit so we can keep this going. And then, of course, our Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op. He is at ZanmanLOP. Best way to find us is hashtag KOH and hashtag DAD.
And stay tuned to all the other content here on LOP Radio. Tomorrow night we'll be back with you with Dynamite After Dark, right after Dynamite goes off the air. And next week we're actually going to do we're going to actually go to talk about Dynamite while Dynamite is airing, and then also talk about Double or Nothing at the same time. So
and to be honest, these headphones haven't been a complete detriment like I thought they would be. So since my new ones aren't going to be in yet, that shouldn't be an issue.
All right. Good.
So yeah.
Cool.
So what are we doing next week? We're doing Final Battle, or no, not Final Battle. What do they call it there? Final Resolution?
Yeah, Final Resolution 2005. Yep.
And with this long weekend,
or is it Turning Point?
It might be Turning Point. I don't remember. Whatever the final one of 2005 was. And who knows, with the weekend I've got here, I got a nice long weekend, 4-day weekend. I will be kid free. So I might actually get Lock and Key and done this weekend if you want to do that on Monday as well. Did I lose you? Shane, are you there? I think I might have lost Shane. Looks like he is not here right now. So I don't know. Since I have lost Shane, I guess we'll have to talk about that. Do that. Talk about that another time. As far as be sure to listen to the rest of the week here on Lords of Pain on YouTube channel. As tomorrow night we will be covering AEW's Aftershock after Dynamite live on our YouTube channel, as well as Lords of Pain Radio YouTube channel. Also, Imp will be here on Thursday, and I believe Ms. Fan is here on Friday covering something that's, unfortunately, that's something that Shane's got access to. So, guys, steal a phrase from my partner, long days, pleasant nights, and I am going to do my thing and say goodbye.